So today we're doing some general upkeep and maintenance. Me and Otta on here, going into the forest where we've been doing lots of clearing, and we are pulling out new growth that we don't want and chopping up new growth from the eucalyptus. So everywhere where we have stumps like this, you might be able to see, this is where we've sort of chopped off the trees, but then there's all this new growth that's coming up, because eucalyptus doesn't die easy. And we have a longer term plan where we want to, that looks silly, doesn't it? Where we want to get rid of the stumps in general, and that either involves removing them with a big sort of digger, but that's complicated because for instance, this one is so close to this huge cork oak right next to me. So presumably the roots are kind of intertwined between both of them. So either we remove them where we can, or we've had some suggestions in the comments, which has been pretty cool, to use Epsom salts, where you kind of drill holes into the stumps and you put Epsom salts in there, which kind of speeds up the decomposition. And in addition to that, you can cover them as well, which was another suggestion. So we'll probably do some of that, do some experimenting with a few different methods where we need to, where we can, because we've got a lot. I mean, there's probably around 200, 100, 200, something like that, stumps that are quite large and spread out all over this section here. So this is where it's been cleared, and you can see the cork oaks that are kind of in between, these little ones that were surrounded by eucalyptus, and then everywhere else there's these kind of mounds, which are the eucalyptus stumps, basically. We have planted 2 new trees here. This is the macadamia, and there's a chestnut over there. So that's part of kind of working towards reclaiming this area a little bit more properly. But yeah, it's going to be a long-term process for sure, because as you can see, this ground is so turned up and messed up, and there's so much of the eucalyptus branches and leaves still here anyway. So what I'm thinking we'll probably do is we'll probably leave it for about a year through the summer, and then check in again next winter, see how much of that greenery, like the sticks and leaves, etc., has decomposed, and then make a plan of what we want to do. Because on the other hand, we also don't want to completely expose the soil here just ahead of the summer, because then it will get very hot and it will bake the soil, and we'll sort of lose a lot of the nutrients that is here, because there is a lot of the soil here is actually very good, because it has been under the canopy of the trees, and there's a lot of mulch, as you can see here in the forest as well. So a lot of kind of natural mulch, where either the eucalyptus leaves or just leaves from the oaks and things just covering the soil, which when you dig down into it is this kind of deep, rich, dark brown soil, which is lovely. So yeah, but today just a bit of maintenance, which is something that we're going to have to do every few weeks, or every few months, just to make sure that nothing grows too big that we don't want it to. So yeah, small amounts of work periodically, as opposed to big amounts of work every few years, basically. So we'll see how it goes. The other type of growth that we really don't like as well is these little shoots of the toju stuff, which get very big and very spiky and nasty. So and they're coming up all over the forest basically. So wherever I see them, just kind of chucking them out, pulling them out and chucking them down so they can just kind of decompose. That took a couple of hours to finish. The other thing that we've been doing the last couple of weekends is mulching, and that's sort of in preparation for summer, for all the new trees that we've been planting. So here you can see a bunch of new trees. There's a kaffir lime, this is a peach, I think. There's a clementine, a pine in the back, an orange over there, some elder flowers. This one I believe is another cherry. So yeah, you can see we've got a lot of new trees, and the main thing we're worried about is the summer heat and making sure that we give them enough water, because some of the trees that we planted last year, really close to the summer, sort of end of spring, kind of burnt up during the summer and just ended up being very dry and didn't grow properly. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. One thing that we're doing for that is mulching. So this is the base of the tree, and we're using sticks and leaves, dry sticks and leaves, basically, to cover the kind of root area of the tree, the base. And there's a few reasons for this. The main one is moisture retention. It's actually been raining the last few days, so the ground doesn't seem too dry. But when it gets very sunny, this area starts to get very sort of dry and sandy, and quite hard. And what this means is that when we do water these trees, the moisture is going to be sitting within this mulched area and underneath it, and it's going to be more protected from the sun, so it's going to evaporate less. So when we look under here, we'll be able to see that the earth under here is even more kind of moist and wet, which is good. The other thing that it does is it suppresses weeds, so it means that other things are less likely to grow in this area and compete with the tree itself, which is good. Another thing it does is that it adds organic matter. So as this stuff starts to break down over the next few months, all that nutrients will go down into the soil, and it will sort of feed the tree as well and give it some good nutrients, a good nutrient boost as it's trying to grow. So yeah, it's really good for us to do, and hopefully it will help these trees survive through the summer. So we've done most of the trees. The only thing that's left to do is the hedges along the wall. So they're slightly older than the trees. They've been in there for almost a year, some of them now, which is good. They're well established, but it's good to redo the mulching every year. So every year you add another layer of organic matter, and then that serves all those purposes of moisture retention and added nutrients and weed suppression, etc. The other thing as well that's important for us is because the land is very kind of sloping, it kind of goes down mostly to the south. As you can kind of see here, it kind of slopes in this direction, but then there's also these kind of just undulations in general. The other thing that's important is for us to sort of flatten off an area around the base of the trees and the bushes, so that when we do water, it doesn't just run off and doesn't just sort of run down the hill. It actually stays there within that mulched area, and soaks down slowly into the tree or to the bush. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna go take the big wheelbarrow thing, the big cart, go into the woods, grab a bunch of leaves from the ground, leaves and sticks, and then finish doing the rest of the hedges. in the woods here, there's just these piles of leaves and sticks from the oaks that have just fallen over time, and it's an incredible like source of free mulch, this sort of organic matter. But there's different types of mulch that you can use. You can use fallen leaves, you can sort of shred up sticks, and we're shredding our old like brambles and stuff that we've cut before, wood chips, that kind of stuff. You can also use cardboard, which we did in the beginning, and we use that in our veg beds as well. When we created those, we put cardboard down underneath as a kind of mainly as a weed suppressor, but you can use that as a mulch as well. And then you can use inorganic mulches like plastic sheeting, which people sometimes use for like sheet mulching, so doing a whole large area that you want to completely clear of weeds and growth, if you want to start a veg bed there, or a sort of garden bed, or an area of the forest garden. So we might be doing some of that in the future, but this stuff's really great, and it's free, and it's sort of constantly regenerating in the forest, which is pretty cool. So that's it, all done. So all of these hedges have now got lovely layers of mulch and have been weeded around the sides. It's good, there's less competition around them. Same goes for all the trees. So yeah, it's a bit of a mission, but it's all done now, which is good, and it'll be really good for the summer. But yeah, this video was maybe a bit boring, but it's good to illustrate the reality as well. Like, we don't always do just big projects. We've also got to do to balance it with maintenance and upkeep, basically, to make sure that what we've already put in is going to survive, so that we're not just constantly putting new stuff in. We've got to remind ourselves of that as well sometimes, because it's very tempting to just go get some new trees or some more bushes, or just keep pushing along with our plans and projects, which we are doing and we will do, but we've got to make sure that everything that we put in already survives and does well.